What is going on, guys? This is Kyle with Blacklisted. We are here with Christa Roberts. Thank you for joining us today, Christa.
Thanks for having me.
This is your first podcast ever, huh?
First video podcast, second podcast ever.
Oh, okay. What was the first one that you did?
Nutrition.
Oh, okay. And it was just voice.
Yeah.
Who'd you do that one with?
I actually don't remember their name anymore. They stopped doing it. It was a couple moms here in town.
Oh,
They were
nice.
just trying to come up with common ground and just different topics to talk about. And they invited my friend and I on, but they said it wasn't worth continuing with their lives, so they stopped it.
That's funny.
Busy moms didn't have time for it.
Yeah. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. You're in Lynchburg, Virginia, and you
Yes.
are very involved in the fitness community there.
Just a little bit. I came to Lynchburg to go to college, but before that, I was a gymnast growing up, and I quit that when I think I was about 13. Didn't really have anything to do afterwards, because if anybody was a gymnast, they know that you don't have time for other sports when you do something like that. So when I went to college, I was looking for another outlet, like something active to do, and ended up starting coaching gymnastics while in college. So I've been coaching that for about 15 years now.
Yeah,
And then because of that kind of led to me working in CrossFit.
for sure. So you didn't go to school for gymnastics, because I know, so if you don't know, Liberty University is in Lynchburg, Virginia, and it seems like they have a pretty big gymnastics community there. Maybe that is just because I'm involved with you and that's all I see. You're still heavily involved with the community.
Yes,
But
my first gymnastics boss actually helped start the team. So I was technically one of their athletes, but I didn't compete for them. I mainly did it so I could sign up when the athletes sign up for classes.
oh, nice. Okay.
I went in and played around with them, but I didn't compete for Liberty or anything like that. And I actually didn't even go to school for fitness. I was an interior design major.
That is an interesting degree path. I don't know. I think we've talked about this before, but I honestly don't. I think you're the only person that I've ever met that has an interior design degree. So
Yeah, not really using it.
yeah, right. So you helped stand up the gymnastics team at University of Liberty.
I was one of the first members on the team, one of the first athletes, but it was my boss that kind of started everything.
Okay.
Another girl and I both coached for her at the time, so we joined the team just to kind of be extra bodies there. We had keys to the gym, so we could help with practice if we needed to, but we weren't coaches or anything.
Okay, gotcha. And is that kind of where you learned a lot of your base of coaching knowledge and coaching for gymnastics was during that time frame, or?
Working for her is when it all kind of started. Like I said, sophomore year, I just wanted something else to do. I'd moved off campus and was looking for a different community, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And once a gymnast, always a gymnast. If you know any gymnast, we'll kick up in handstands randomly, and it's not because we're trying to show off. It's just in your blood, once you've done it forever. So I really miss the sport, and that's what got me back into it. And then they had a need for a coach that summer. So I trained, I just helped coach classes for probably 9 months. And then that summer they gave me a team group, and that's really what got the ball rolling, probably, because then it was up to me to start figuring out all my own drills. I didn't really have any guidance. I was one of the head coaches at the time, which way too young to be one of the head coaches. So it was up to me to really dig in and try to figure out how to coach the sport.
Yeah. Do you think that helped you out a lot though? Especially with CrossFit and kind of your membership now?
In some ways, definitely taught me a lot of things not to do.
Okay.
And taught me the areas to really focus on. So in some ways, I definitely think it helped push me along. But in the end, having that guidance, I think, is the biggest thing that most people need anyway. So I kind of wish that I would have had that back then, but life wouldn't have turned out quite the same if I had, probably.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I always kind of tell people you find something exactly when you need to find it. So even if it didn't feel like it was the appropriate time. Like it was definitely the step in your path, that life path that you were supposed to take. So,
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
okay. So after college, like, did you continue doing fitness? Like what did you end up doing after college?
So because of gymnastics, one of my friends, she lives an hour away, and she had started CrossFit, and she reached out to me. She was like, due to your gymnastics background, like you will absolutely love CrossFit. And
Okay.
I thought she was crazy. I was the typical gym person that would go on with my headphones in, looking down, not making eye contact, go in and get my workout done. And
Yeah.
also I didn't know how to work out. I knew how to do gymnastics conditioning. I had no idea how to like create rep schemes or I don't know, even follow programming. Like I didn't know what
Mhm.
I was doing. So I would go piddle in the gym for probably 2 hours and leave because I'm like, I've probably been here long enough. And like, I guess I'm tired. Like I didn't know what I was doing. So I felt like I got enough in.
Yeah.
Um, and she talked me into CrossFit because she fell in love with it. And so I
Okay.
kind of thinking like, I'll go in and see what it's about. It was the first year my husband and I were married, so obviously not a lot of money to spend on something like that. And I was like, I'll just go in and learn everything, and
Mhm.
then I will leave and go somewhere cheaper that's not a CrossFit gym and do programming on my own.
Mhm.
Because I didn't realize how big the community was. Like I didn't
Mhm.
realize that was the big thing about CrossFit and what keeps people there. So like, was it 11 years later? We now own our own gym. So obviously that plan did not work out.
Right. Yeah. So what year did you end up getting into CrossFit then?
2012, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That would line up with the 11-year statement that you just made. So,
I
that
was
makes
like, are you trying to trick me right now?
yeah. Okay, cool. And like was it kind of like you just like hit the ground running, like you loved it first thing, like when you walked in, or was it kind of like a rude awakening to fitness or
A little bit of everything. Being a gymnast, I thought CrossFit was a bunch of cheating. Um,
yeah.
my first day was actually during the open. It was 7 minutes of burpees to a target for time. And I
Yep.
did every single one with a strict push up because like I wasn't going to cheat in my head. Um, the kipping pull-ups, like if you ask a gymnast to cheat on a pull-up, they're going to do a kipping pull-up. It's like
Mhm.
I already knew how to do those. So that was kind of fun, like being able to go in and I already knew how to do stuff.
Mhm.
And then because of my background and just being like a thicker athlete, like I was able to squat a lot from the beginning. So like it was kind of fun being able to do some of that stuff.
Mhm.
But then having to like buy into the CrossFit side, like I refused to buy new shoes because I had just bought a pair of like Nike Frees, and I was like, absolutely not. Like you guys just wear CrossFit shoes because it's the thing to do. And I was stuck to my guns and was stubborn about that for probably 9 months.
Still a debatable statement.
Yes, but Nike Frees are not the shoes to deadlift or squat in. And I quickly found that out when I tried actual CrossFit shoes, and I was like, okay, I guess you guys are telling the truth on this one. Um,
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me a while to kind of buy in just because
Mhm.
I actually had a conversation with the owner at the time. Um, I guess I started to get a little competitive and was getting very
Mhm.
annoyed that people were beating me that, in my opinion, should not have been beating me on some of the things. And he
Yep.
was like, then you need to suck it up and do it our way. He was like, quit saying that everything is cheating and cheat. Go ahead and cheat like we do. And he was like, then you will be in front of these people. So I kind of needed that kick in the butt to actually accept all the movements of CrossFit. And I think
Yeah.
that's common with a lot of gymnasts, like Jessie, one of my members, and she coaches gymnastics with me. Like, I think she kind of struggled with it when she first started. One of her teammates was the same way. Like, they didn't really want to start CrossFit while they were gymnasts because you just look at it as like a bunch of cheating reps. And
Mhm.
I don't know, it's just the mindset we have towards it in the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel that that's specific to your kind of like gymnastics crew, or you feel like that's like broad sense?
I think that's probably most competitive gymnasts.
Okay.
You're held to such a high standard with everything.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe some like rec teams, they probably would just jump in. Or like if you start the sport when you're younger, like we've had some kids come in, like teenagers, middle school age, and like they
Mm,
just jump in and do it because we're like, hey, this is how we do pull-ups here. And they're like, okay, they don't question it.
yeah.
But like being a coach and like getting on kids to stop cheating on their pull-ups, and then I go join a sport where you cheat on your pull-ups, like that was a little harder.
For sure, for sure. Um, So you kind of alluded to, you started to get a little bit more competitive, and you started to get into like doing CrossFit, how it was intended to be done, like higher power outputs. So did you kind of start going down the competitive path then? Like, did you start competing at big competitions or?
I don't really think I've ever competed at anything huge, but honestly, the kick in the butt there was our team made it to regionals. I actually don't even remember the year, but they made it to regionals. And at the time, I was one of the stronger athletes in the gym. So my sport helped contribute to getting them there. And then they decided to call me and tell me they were going to make me an alternate on the team, which I told them they were completely insane and to go find somebody else. I had really bad asthma at the time. And if you told me to run 400 meters, I was probably going to have an asthma attack. So I'm like, absolutely not. Like, I'm not competing, not putting me on the floor. Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
But they did that. I was their alternate. I didn't have to compete, but the fact that they had that much faith in me, I went to watch regionals and then I went to watch a local competition. And while I was there, I was like, all right, if they had that much belief in me, like, I need to actually give it a try. So at the time, there were these competitions around called Superfit. He traveled all over like Virginia, North Carolina, and hosted competitions. And I did one of those and became obsessed with it. So I did quite a few of those throughout the years. And I'm still piddling at competitions now.
Yeah. So when did you kind of, so this is just me knowing you, is you did get kind of competitive and then you kind of took a little bit of a break there. And now you're starting to get back into the swing of things again. When did you kind of take a break from competitive CrossFit and like why?
I'll say I feel like it's led up to like a few different years kind of led to that. I abused my body quite a bit, was under fueling while overtraining just because a nutrition coach I had when I didn't know any better led me down a wrong path while I was increasing training, and that kind of broke my body. And we had a lot of family stress happen. So that broke me a second time. But both of those, I was like still competing through it, just not healthy. And then let's see, November will probably be 4 years. I sprained my ankle really, really bad at the same time that I left the gym that I was coaching at. And just all of that together, I kind of stepped away from the gym for probably a solid month of like no working out because I couldn't hardly walk. I think that's about the time that I was like, all right, like I'm just gonna work out, just be healthy. Even when we opened the gym, like I was so burnt out from being there all the time, like I didn't want to go in anymore.
Right.
I actually didn't do CrossFit for probably the first like 6 to 9 months that we owned a CrossFit gym. I did more bodybuilding style.
It might have been longer than that.
Well, like, I don't even think I touched, like, I don't think I did a burpee. I don't think I did a muscle up. I don't think I touched a barbell. Like it was like all dumbbell stuff, like, just to try and find motivation again, get my body healthy again and see if it was something I wanted to do. And then even since then, like this month will have been open 4 years. And I feel like I've taken like 4 breaks during those 4 years where like life was just insane and I had to step away and not train very hard. But
you have been training hard for like the last 6 months though, so that is pretty cool to see. Maybe even longer than that, actually. You've probably had a good solid year of training so far.
Yeah, probably about a year.
Yeah. So what led you guys to kind of open up the gym then? And this is in 2019, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Felt like there was a need in the area for something different. There's multiple CrossFit gyms in our area, but everyone has their own style. Like that is CrossFit. Like there is you get the branding, you get to say the word CrossFit, but then it's up to you to run it how you want.
Right.
And the coaches that I coached with at the time at the previous place, like we just wanted to see something different, and the members seemed to want to see something different, and we thought we could provide that. We had people that wanted more challenging workouts than what they were being given, or wanted more coaching than they were being given, or wanted more direction. That was one of my biggest complaints when I started competing was you would do class and then it was up to you to do all the extra stuff. There was guidance and how to slowly progress to doing more. So most of us went 0 to 100 from just class to overtraining and doing way too much and hurting our bodies.
Yeah.
we wanted to provide a way to kind of get people through that of like, if you want to start competing, we will help get you there. But this is like the safe, healthy way to do it so that you can still be competing in 3 years and not broken.
Yeah, and I think you've done an awesome job of that. Like you have some like Jesse, Yana, like you've got some good up and coming athletes who have definitely stayed healthy over the course of you guys being open. So that's kind of, you know, a good testament to that philosophy holding true. So
Thank you.
So I guess along those lines, like is that kind of like your ideal with the gym, is like, hey, we want to have a competitive gym that builds people up, or what is like your guys' kind of mission inside of the gym?
That's always been a hard question for me. Because
Yeah.
as a gym owner, like you want to help everybody.
Mhm.
But I feel like we've done a decent job of being able to help everybody that's come to us for the most part. Like there's some people that want to do their own thing and we're like, we're not the place for you. Like we don't just have free reign in our gym. If you want 24/7 access, like you got to go somewhere else. We wanted to be able to come alongside people that just literally want to be healthier, but like we want them to move well. Cause I know it feels like a lot of gyms, especially here in town, if you don't want to compete, then you're just kind of pushed to the side and like you do the workouts, you still get coached, but they don't really focus on the technique as much. Whereas like, I don't know if it's me or just being a gymnast in the past, like to me, technique is everything. You're going to plateau so much sooner if your technique isn't there or you're going to get injured. So even if we have a 65-year-old, if we have a 70-year-old, like we still want to focus on technique as much as we can, even though theirs might look a little different just from how their body moves. So I wanted to provide a place where we could really help people with that, I guess, so that they can move well for the rest of their lives. And then if they want to branch into competing, that's the perfect way to do it because the form's already there, but still provide more options for our competitors.
Yeah, for sure. I think like out of all the gyms that I've been to and been around, like I've been in the CrossFit scene for like 12, yeah, like 11, 12 years now too. You guys do the best job of like at your level one, they instill like movement quality as the pinnacle of or like the base of the pyramid, right? And you guys, out of all the gyms that I've been to, have do the best in instilling that, and then like understanding movement down to the finite level of the individual that is completing the workout. So, you know, I think that's like, where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's from the gymnastics background or?
I think the gymnastics background definitely helps a lot. One of my close friends, when he was my training partner for a long time, he is now in PT school. And even before he went into PT school, he had the mind of a physical therapist. Like he was so incredibly smart and he broke down movements a lot. Like he actually coached me more in the time we trained together than I felt like I had been coached in years.
Yeah.
So I think the gymnastics, like I can see a lot of stuff, but then working with him, like when we trained together, he would make me video his lifts and then he would make me coach him. Like he would sit there and watch it with me and he's like, where did I mess up? What did I mess up?
Oh, that's
And
cool.
he's a very good lifter. So that was really freaking hard for me and
Yeah.
intimidating because I'm like, it looks good to me. Like, I don't know. And he's like, slow it down and watch it again. And then like just bringing our coaches in, like we have them shadow for 2 weeks. And then we have them write the warm up and coach it and then shadow the rest of the class for 2 weeks. And then they have to do all that and coach the entire class for 2 weeks. And in doing so, we're trying to walk along beside them. And if they have questions or if they miss something, we don't just say like, hey, go. We don't walk over and tell the athlete that they missed. We walk up to the coach and we're like, hey, this athlete is doing this. Like, can you see it? Please go address it. So we're trying to help our coaches grow as best we can.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it too. Just the gym I was from, when I got my L1, they were like, all right, you ready to coach? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
I was there for a weekend and they were like, no, like you've been in class for like 5 years, like you're good. And I'm like, I don't know how to run a class. Like that's very different than participating in a class. And
Yeah. Yeah.
different than coaching children in gymnastics. So I think working with our new coaches, I think helps a lot of that. And then like the buy-in, like our competitors that are in the gym, like they move well and they're also really humble. So it doesn't hurt that, I don't know, all that together, I think it makes a lot of our members look up to our competitors and they want to move well and they see like, oh, they move well. So if I actually pay more attention to my technique, it's going to help me. So there is a lot more buy-in, I think.
For sure. And like kind of going along with that base of the pyramid, and you guys harp on movement. I've talked to several of my buddies about this before, and it's like so interesting how you'll kind of like pick apart movement patterns at gyms, but it's typically the better athletes that are pushing the movement quality. So like if a better athlete has a weird hitch in their snatch or something like that, you can actually watch that athlete and then look at the rest of the membership, and there's going to be people that are mimicking the rest of that in their membership. So it's awesome to hear that you guys are like really pushing your top level athletes to be to just have better movement quality, because that's going to transfer all the way down into your other members.
Yeah, I think we've almost tried to, like on barbell cycling days that you have programmed in the past, and it's like just move as fast as you can, and it may not be the prettiest snatch. And so we've had to kind of coach people. We're like, you have to do pretty snatches until you can show us that you know how to do them perfectly, and then you get permission to do ugly snatches to go fast. Like,
yeah,
you just have to like earn the right to do ugly things.
Yeah.
Just because we're like, there needs to be a rhyme and reason. You're not just doing them. You're not doing them incorrectly just to do them incorrectly. You're doing them for speed. You're doing them to get through your workout quicker, but like it's safe because you're strong enough to do so. We're not letting our new members do that and fly through movements, because then they're going to lead to injury down the road.
For sure. Have you seen that you have lower injury rates, better retention, like through this kind of like philosophy and mindset? Or I don't know if there's really any data that you've been taking on that or not.
Most of our injuries have been complete freak accidents, like somebody bailed a barbell and didn't get out from under it, so she broke her arm. So we've had some like weird accidents, a couple of them. But
yeah,
other than that, like I feel like most of our athletes stay fairly healthy. Like every now and then we'll have maybe a little bit of overuse in the shoulder or something like that. And some of that is athletes that are just going to push themselves a little harder anyway. So maybe
totally.
let's just scale back a little bit. But I don't feel like we have enough really data there to see, because I don't know, being such a new gym, before we started using your programming, we were only using something else for about a year probably. So I don't feel like there's a ton of feedback there.
Yeah.
And then we've also, like being in a college town, some of our athletes come and go. So even some of our athletes that like we would have had in the beginning to be able to see if their bodies were doing better, like they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that doing all of that is definitely helping our athletes. Like, I mean, we don't have a ton of injuries, and I don't know what the rate is at other gyms with other programs. I know like my body, when I was following other programming, it was pretty beat up all the time. That was why our gym started following your programming, is because when I switched to your program, that was the first time my body didn't feel like it was constantly abused. Like it was tired and it hurt, like in a good way, because all my joints wanted to break and fall off.
Yeah. There wasn't chronic inflammation from too much intensity, and then you're like, hey, I don't know how to actually use my abdominal muscles, so my back's blown out for 6 months out of the year.
Yeah. So I think that it is working for us, and I think that's why athletes are healthy. But again, I don't have like actual data to put with that.
For sure. Yeah. So you've mentioned this a couple of times, but you do follow our programming, the method specifically, and we're just launching kind of how you adjust that in a program called the Cartel. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, you can go to Wad Up and look at that. Shameless plug. But could you just kind of bring it back a little bit? Like, do you remember exactly kind of like how we met, and then just like kind of the relationship that we've like been able to cultivate over the last, I think it was 2018, we ended up kind of like interacting on Instagram over the last 5 years or so?
Yeah. So is it okay to say like names on here? Like, does it matter?
I mean, I don't know.
So Alexandra LaChance came to our gym. We brought her in a couple times for gymnastics seminars. And at the time she was dating a guy named Keegan, who was working for you or with you.
Yep. He had started with our company for a little bit. Yep.
So my friend Austin and I, who were training together, we started working with Keegan. Austin kind of had the bug to see how far he could push his CrossFit career at the time. So we started doing personal programming through Keegan, but obviously that's really expensive. It wasn't something that we could do for long term, but that actually was perfect timing because, as you said, things happen at the right time. That was one of the times my body blew up. So
Mhm.
I was able to work with Keegan for a little bit, and he taught me how to do very slow CrossFit,
Yeah,
no intensity. But I mean, part of that is why I'm the coach I am. Like, I learned a lot through that. So
yeah.
he kind of got me healthier again. And once I felt healthy, I knew that I needed something different, but I could not afford to keep paying him.
Mhm.
So I had heard of you because of him, and I think you had maybe just launched the method, or it had been out for like a short bit. I don't feel like it was out for very long.
Yeah, I can't, I know, I'm trying to remember. I think it was like you followed us and then like 2 months later we like launched it or something like that. We had like interacted a couple times on Instagram and then we launched it shortly after those interactions, I think.
Okay. So Austin, I dove into that, and that felt like the closest form to like personalized programming. I know it wasn't personalized, but like it just felt like some of the same stuff that Keegan was trying to drill into us about
Mhm.
how to stay healthy. It felt like you were doing that. So
Mhm.
we followed your programming for a while, and then you hosted a camp in Atlanta and talked me into coming. And that was during one of my retirements.
Which, yeah, that was in 2000, was that in 2019, I think, right?
Yeah, because we had just opened the gym, and you were like, "Oh yeah, you should come down." And I was like, "I don't do CrossFit right now. Like, I'm actually gonna die if I come to camp." And
It was
the
pretty close.
yeah, um, I'll be honest. The only reason I came was I told Josh, I was like, I don't want to burn a bridge. Like, he wants me to come, and he's putting the time into asking me to come out. So I was like, I don't want to say no to this. Like, I want the opportunity to meet him and work with him. So I came to camp and somehow didn't die. I was close, but I'm so.
Yeah.
And then from there, we've had you come in. I don't know, have you done 4 camps with us?
3 or 4 now, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
So we had somebody else doing the programming at the time. And it worked because any programming will work, but I felt like it was a lot of grunt work at times, not
Mhm.
a lot of intentional movements. So I know I
Mhm.
talked to you at some point about like if you guys were gonna, sell some affiliate programming or what that would look like, and you suggested taking the method and just tweaking it for our gym. Um,
Mhm.
that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
I obviously started working with you with your other program of the light method or blacklisted light. What do you? I don't
Black
even
is the light. Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
light
So
method,
we,
but that doesn't make sense.
yeah. So I don't do a great job of advertising, but we have 3 different tracks that you can follow. So we have our individualized programming. You're now doing kind of like our hybrid method where we're taking, honestly, very similar to what you're doing with the method, but we take the method kind of like base template and then we make 1 to 2 adjustments a day on that, and then we have our kind of like competitors and group program, which is the method. So yeah, just some background information for people there. So
Just helping you drop some more information there.
yeah, right. Yeah, so okay, so take us through kind of like what you do. So a typical day of the method is like we have an AM and a PM on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we have like typical training on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we have kind of our session workout on Saturdays. And the idea behind the method was to try and use what we have found successful with our individual athletes and then apply it to like a broader group program. Keeping people, our goal is always to keep people healthy. If you can stay healthy, you're going to consistently adapt over a longer period of time. And then intelligent training, so you're not just doing a bunch of CrossFit. Like we've got a bunch of different intervals in there. We've got different strength systems. We're trying to accurately put in strength and aerobic work in a format that isn't going to destroy people. But it is a lot more volume than you would see inside of a class workout because it is designed for competitors. So what do you kind of do for like taking the method and then putting it into your guys' program?
So most of it, well, I was gonna say I'll step back. It kind of depends on the cycle that you're leading the athletes through.
Mhm.
Like during the summer, it's more of like a lot of strict strength, like strict gymnastics, a lot of like squatting, deadlifting, not so much barbell cycling.
Mhm.
So those times of years, I will tweak it a little differently than like if we're in getting close to the open. So like during those sessions, we actually, something that our members love, you typically do like A, B, and C of strength. And
Mhm.
sometimes one day a week, that is all our athletes do. They get one day a week of strength work, which I think has been working really well for them because they've been putting up some big numbers the past couple of
Yeah.
years. But basically, like I try to take your most important pieces. So I know like if you put it in first, like it's something that actually needs to be done.
Mhm.
Actually needs to be done, all of it needs to be done, but most important piece.
Yeah.
And then I kind of look at it, if it's like this week would be a good example, or last week. I know you had like hanging muscle snatches into snatches off blocks, into box squats. So we took the muscle snatches from that, got rid of the snatches from the blocks, just one. It was not to say it was repetitive, but we wanted to be able to get them a Metcon in, and we wanted them to get a little bit of strength work. So the muscle snatches was a little bit of technique for them. And then we were able to fit in the strength afterwards, and then a short Metcon. So a lot of times it looks like taking, A and B from you for the strength, and then your morning Metcon. A lot of times I will look at the overall week and see what movements my gym members haven't hit recently. So if you're in a cycle where you're just absolutely crushing shoulders for a little bit, and maybe they haven't done balls in 3 weeks or something like that, just because it's been in a PM session and not something that they're getting, I might drop that. I might flip flop them, and that might go into the class. Just because we want to make sure they're hitting as many movements as they can throughout the week, since they're not, most of them aren't competitors. So the programming they get is done in class. And then obviously you program a rest day, and I can't close the gym on Thursdays. So I take one of your PM sessions and move it to Thursday. Usually one of your longer sessions, if there is one for that week. And if there's not, we'll do a shorter session, and then I actually program gymnastics for the strength that day.
Okay. Yeah. So you also do something kind of cool where you have 3 different categories that you're trying, or you kind of write up or make adjustments for. What are those categories?
We call them health, fitness, and competitor. This all started because it was an eye-opening experience during the open one year. We have an older gentleman in our gym. He's in his 60s, and he's in CrossFit to be able to move well. He's in CrossFit to be able to golf. Like, that's his sport. And he's got a lot of shoulder issues, and quite frankly has no business doing squat snatches. They're not a service to him. Like, it's just going to make his shoulders hurt worse. So we had a really hard time scaling for him. Not that we couldn't scale, but he didn't want it scaled. Most days he would come in, he's like, no, I'm going to do what's written on the board. And we're like, you pay for coaches to scale for you and help you, to give you what's appropriate for you. And he just never wanted it because he didn't want to be doing something different from the rest of class. So during the open, I decided I was going to write the scaled, the RX, and then I was going to write a master's one up there. And he walked in and he was like, does that work out for me? I said, well, if you're in that age range, it is. And he was like, well, I am. He was like, that's fantastic. He was like, I've never had a workout written for me, which we're like, okay, we've tried. We try every single day, but that was eye-opening because he wanted to do what the class was doing. He didn't want to do something special for him. He didn't want a coach to take time out of their day to cater to him. He wanted to be one with everyone else. So we started toying around with like putting different options up there. And I actually had some people in our gym vote, like, do you like the word scaled? And most people said no. So we decided to do health, fitness, and competitor. Health being maybe you're just in there to focus on your health for a while, like whether it's that you're overweight or you're dealing with some health issues, or that can be like the beginner one. So whenever we're doing strength in the beginning of class, it's always with a barbell, so we can focus on technique. But during the Metcon, I'll take the barbell out for the health people, and they get 2 dumbbells, because if they have some wrist issues and they can't get in a good front rack, they can still use dumbbells most of the time, so they can still do most of the workout. So that is what health is for. We also have a lot of people, like I've done health plenty of times, where I come in and I'm like, I'm so sore and I just need to move. This allows me to move how my body needs to right now. So then our next level is fitness. And that is like, I don't know, old school RX CrossFit. Like, where the weights are a little lighter, the movements are a little bit easier, like what it may have been back in the day. That's good for people that it's a level to like achieve. Not everybody needs to be a competitor, but we'd love to have everybody doing the majority of the movements. And then weight wise, I try my best to come up with a percentage for people for that. So instead of saying like health is going to be dumbbells, fitness is going to be 95, 65, and competitor is going to be 185, 125, I will actually tell fitness to do like, hey, these are weights if you don't have an idea, but like, or use 60% of your max. That way they're getting the same stimulus. Sometimes it comes back to bite me because people don't want to push themselves out of that comfort zone because they're like, oh, I can just do 60%. And I'm like, those are the people. I'm like, if you want to compete, you've actually got to start pushing it. But for the most part, it seems to work. Most of our athletes are finishing the workouts all at the same time, which in a class of people that don't want to compete, like that's ideal. And then editor programming, that's whatever you write, we are pretty much leaving it as is, like the RX weights, the harder movements, the more technical stuff, like that's what they're getting.
Yeah. And so do you have to, are there people who are like in the middle ranges of those, like, and do you have to like kind of, I don't want to use this word because, but do you have to scale it down for them or adjust it for them?
Yeah, we tell people, we're like, just because it's written in here, you don't have to do it specific. Like you don't have to hit this exact weight. You don't have to hit this exact percentage. It still needs to be scalable for you. And when they see that there's 3 different options, they're a lot more open to scaling, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Because we're like, what you're doing is technically harder than that one and easier than this one. So like anything in between there, like they're okay with.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of cool. Yeah. You showed me this when you had kind of like started writing it out, and it's like, it's just so much more accurate for what people are looking for out of their like fitness routine. Cause CrossFit is it's like a huge spectrum. Like you have the competitive side of the spectrum, and then you have the people who are on the health side of the spectrum. And then there's people in between that are like, I could do a competition every once in a while, but really I'm just here to, maintain what I have. And so like this wording of it, just like it hits home with so many different people. So I think it's like super cool that you were able to do that, and then, get away from some of the nomenclature that is, at the time that CrossFit, started was great for CrossFit, because intensity was left out of the fitness equation at that point in time. You needed something to like push and strive for and achieve for. So it was great at the time, but over time it developed into this like, I have to RX this workout, but even if I injure myself and now I'm out of the gym for 3 months, so this was awesome. And I think it's like super cool that you were able to like come up with this. And like, was it pretty easy to get buy-in right away on it, or?
From some people, I think I tried to be like a testament to it a lot of times, because like we even do it for our gymnastics skills in there. So if you, let's say in a week, you happen to program bar muscle ups, ring muscle ups, and chest to bar, like separate days, but that's still 3 upper body pulling days.
Yeah.
CrossFit gym, I feel like you walk in and like they either go grab a band or they do jumping pull-ups. Like those are the normal, or you do ring rows. Like those are the normal scaling options. And we would have people walk in, they're like, oh, I guess I'm doing ring rows again. And we're like, you don't have to, like, you can do other things. So even with our gymnastics side, and I think this has helped with a lot of the buy-in, like if it's those 3 movements, our health people, like one day they may be doing like bent over rows. The next day they may be doing foot assist pull-ups, and the next day it may be like dumbbell pullovers or jumping pull-ups. It kind of depends on how quickly your workout is. If it's, 5 reps, like maybe I have them do negatives. But if it's 50 reps, I'm like, all right, you guys got to do something a little quicker. But I think providing those options, honestly, is what has helped the most with the buy-in, because people walk in like, oh, like there's something different each day. Like I don't have to walk in and do the same pull-up progression that I've done for the last 6 months, which at our gym, our coaches try and do their best to, keep people moving with different progressions. So they're not always doing the same, but I honestly think that was one of the bigger pieces that help with the buy-in, because people feel lost when it comes to the gymnastics side.
Yeah, for sure. And this is where I think like you do such a great job of coaching, especially like your clients, is like you have such a breadth of knowledge of things to like adjust and scale and different movements that you can give people to keep that variety inside of their health workout.
That was something, like, it's almost embarrassing to say how long it took me to learn butterflies and muscle ups because nobody knew how to teach me. Like when I started, that was back before all this information on social media. So
2012 was a different time.
yeah. So you either knew how to coach it or you didn't. And most
Mhm,
of the men in my gym that I went to, like they could all just do the movements because they were strong. And then
mhm.
you bring in a female that's not as strong in upper body, and they were like, no, you just do it. And I'm like, well, that's not working. So like, what are the progressions you have for me? And like with butterflies, like you were saying, like you always have to RX the workout. I don't think I necessarily felt like I had to do RX just to do RX, but like I felt like I was cheating if I didn't because I had the
Yeah, yeah.
so like I didn't learn butterflies forever because I was like, well, I have to do chest to bar today. Like
Mhm,
not that I could do butterflies and just not do chest to bar. Like that was never brought to me as an option. That's
mhm.
just so stupid, like saying that because I'm like, well, as an adult, I should have been able to think that. Like it's okay. But like in a competitive atmosphere, you're like, no, like I have to do chest to bar or I'm cheating
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
So in my hands, they get shredded really fast. So like I would do kipping chest to bar for my workout, and then my hands would be bleeding, and I didn't have any skin left to be able to practice butterflies
Mhm.
the rest of the week. So it took me forever to finally be able to learn them. So like that's one thing that I try to do with our athletes, like on fitness, the fitness level, sometimes when it's chest to bar, like they may be scaled to just pull ups. I'm like, hey, you guys can do pull ups, you can scale your reps to chest to bar, or I'll put in like, you guys are doing strict butterflies today because I'm trying to
Mhm.
help people not be me. I want them to like start the things a little earlier than they might need to. That way they have the building blocks to get there.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. And it would be interesting if you could figure out a way how to package that and like teach other coaches that, because I feel like that's something that um CrossFit gyms are just missing so much of. And a lot of it is just because you're just so inexperienced when get your level one. Like you literally went to a weekend to learn how to coach, and then you're like fitness expert now, And I was in that boat for sure. Like I had no previous fitness coaching, and I just got thrown into the wolves with my level one. So like, um, it'd be interesting if you could figure out a way to package that and teach coaches that, because I think that's just such a valuable tool that you bring to your membership.
Well, and honestly, like I feel like most of my knowledge came from me doing things wrong or hurting myself, or like I had to reach out to other sources. Like
For
I
sure. Yeah.
coach I am because I was in physical therapy for months because I jacked up
Mhm.
my back. Like I reached out to you and I have you coaching me and I'm getting knowledge from you. So like I
Mhm.
think if coaches use their resources, they can kind of gain
Yeah.
all of that. But like one thing that I really struggled with after my L1 was like you're there for anybody who's done their L1, like your weightlifting is supposed to be perfect. They make you hold a PVC until you can't feel your throat because you've pinned it for so long in a front rack.
Yeah, right.
Then I went to the pull-up session, and being a gymnast, I can have really straight legs and pointed toes and make them look really pretty. And they actually told me, they were like, you need to do those again and show us that you know how to coach somebody that isn't going to look like a gymnast. And I was like, so you want my weightlifting to be perfect, but you think it's really crazy that I would show perfect gymnastics? And they're like, well, like most people aren't going to show that. Like most people can't relate to that. So then when I started coaching, I was like, all right, how much of my gymnastics background is like too much to push on people? Because gymnastics is all about like being pleasing to the eye. Like you're
Mhm.
scored on your technique and it needs to be perfect. But then on top of that, like you're just looking up. If you look at the floor, like that's not good presentation and you'll lose points, like crazy little things like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I actually felt like I got away from coaching to like good form in gymnastics for a while because I was almost scared that I was doing too much to people. Um,
Okay.
But then it dawned on me, I'm like, no, like we point our toes in gymnastics because it makes your legs longer, but like it helps you engage your muscles. Like it's really
Mhm.
hard to point your toes and not squeeze your quads. Like you have to almost try not to. So like
Yeah.
I almost had to like step away from gymnastics and figure out how much I needed to coach in CrossFit, and then brought it back because I'm like, no, like these are the basics for a reason in gymnastics and they should be the same basics in CrossFit.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty cool that you kind of like had that journey too. So that's pretty sweet. It's also interesting that they demanded perfect technique with a PVC pipe and not manipulating your body in
Yeah.
space. But
People get off the bar and do it again because they weren't ugly enough. And I was like, I really don't know what you guys are looking for now.
yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet. So one thing that you do kind of provide with the program is a little bit more of like gymnastics progressions, but this is specific to the sport of CrossFit. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started with us, like I said, on Thursdays, a lot of times for the strength, we will go through like an 8-week cycle. So it might be 8 weeks of pull-ups. For our newer members, and this, I don't write health fitness competitor. We do beginner, intermediate, advanced, and advanced plus. Advanced plus being our previous gymnasts that are really hard to program for because
Yeah.
but we will focus on a skill for those 8 weeks. And it's partially because like most CrossFit gyms want to do strength in a Metcon. I want to do strength in a Metcon. Like that's what is enjoyed by a lot of people, but you really don't have time to coach the gymnastics when you do that. You're cramming a lot into class, and most people don't want to be coached in the middle of a Metcon. They just want to get their workout in. So doing this, I started writing 8-week blocks of, we're going to start with the basics of a pull-up. So for our beginners, it's just working on getting stronger, and like kipping swings might be week 1. For fitness or the next level intermediates, our fitness people kind of, they are working through either learning butterflies or learning kipping pull-ups. They kind of have both branches they can go down. So if they already know how to kip, they're working on butterflies. Advanced is cleaning up the movements even more and starting to put some volume behind them. And then advanced plus is just whatever chaos I can create for them to challenge them. Because like everybody needs to be challenged. Like it helps like body awareness, spatial awareness, all of that. So I still try to throw a wrench in for our higher level athletes, but so far that has seemed like it's worked really well doing like 8-week blocks like that. And I continue to progress them week to week. So some of it is like strength based and just holding positions. Most of gymnastics is moving from one position to the next really quickly. That creates momentum. So a lot of our work is positional work. And some of it is strength based, but like each week builds upon the last. So that I don't expect anybody to get a muscle up in 8 weeks if they just started at square one, but like hopefully they at least learn these progressions, and then they can put those progressions in a Metcon later on to help them get their movement.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And so, sorry, I might have missed this, but that's just 1 day a week right now, or?
For my gym, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
We do it 1 day a week, and that's pretty much all our classes can handle and how our hands can handle most weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like more swinging, but for the cartel, we are working on doing 3 days a week for after class.
Yeah. Yep. And we're just kind of varying that what you're working on each day. Is that correct?
Yeah. So 1 week is more strength based, strength and positions, and then the next is more like moving through the movement. So for butterflies are a great example. Maybe you're holding like a hollow hold and an arch hold week 1 and doing some like strict pull-up work, something just to build those positions and strength. But then week 2, you might actually be doing like butterflies standing on a box to like actually learn the motion. So trying to get people there. And then those progressions are continuing to build. And then we're trying to do like 3 different movements each week so that people can have a little bit of taste of each and not just get bored doing one movement for the whole time.
Yeah. 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 I think that's going to be like a cool component to that program, just because, you know, one thing that I do like about the way that you teach gymnastics is it is very transferable to the sport, and it's not built to get Instagram followers. It is like, hey, do this drill and it will get you better at this. Like the transferability is very good, and it's not like way too advanced with like no cueing at all, and you're just like, do this drill and you can get a bar muscle up. It's like, well, not really, but
yeah. And there's ones like, they've got great followings, and if it gets them followers to see some of the other drills, that's great. But like, you have to dig through so much stuff just to find something you can actually do, because most of it's so advanced. Or like you said, there's no cues. It's just, hey, watch me do this, like the skill in this drill, and like put 1 and 2 together and you're there. But like realistically, if that's not what happens, there's usually like in the sport of gymnastics itself, like all we do is drills. You do drill after drill, hoping to get one skill eventually. So we're hoping that we can kind of figure out the typical drills that work for most people to get a ring muscle up and put all of those together. There's obviously like wiggle room for some people. Some people need a little bit of extra work on certain pieces, but hopefully if they're getting a taste of all the progressions, they know which ones that are harder and they can go back and work on them.
For sure. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I've learned a lot from you as well, just from like watching some of your gymnastic stuff and stuff that you're putting on Instagram now. And like now we're able to start, kind of incorporating that into a program for people. So excited to kind of launch this one with you. So
I'm looking forward to it. I got to get back to the gym and get some videos done though.
Yeah, right. I had one kind of question for you, and this is kind of like from a mindset standpoint, but I find and maybe this isn't for, this is kind of like a general rule of thumb, but I find that gymnasts have trouble with perfection, like being perfectionists in the sport. And then also from like a judging standpoint, they feel, like, because you guys are so strictly judged in your sport. Did you feel like whenever you were taking no reps at a competition, like it was almost like more of like a personal attack on you? Like, I'm not trying to move wrong. I'm trying to move correctly, but like, you're not giving me any feedback on that. Does that kind of make sense? Or
It does. I don't think I really struggle with that, but I could definitely see some people struggling with that. But I also think I've probably lucked out and had some really good judges that have kind of gone above and beyond to tell me like why they're no repping me. There was one time that I was about to lose my mind. And everybody was so stinking kind, but it was not a good day. My partner and I made it to the finals of a competition, and that was back before like you didn't really do a lot of bar muscle ups, and they weren't this huge thing yet. And for those that don't know, when you do a kip in gymnastics or a muscle up, like your feet are supposed to go above the bar. You put to your ankles and then it goes all the way up your leg. So they announced that we had bar muscle ups in the final. Our gym did not have bars that we could do bar muscle ups on. So like I had never even tried like a real CrossFit one. And I've never wanted to quit a workout so bad in my life. My friend couldn't do them. So I was like, well, I'll just keep trying. And like, I would do one and they're like, no rep. I'm like, all right, I'll try something different. Like try to throw my feet down. I probably did like 15 muscle ups to get like maybe 6 to count. Like I was bleeding everywhere. I had no skin left on my hands. And I got to the point, like they had no rules for us other than the feet. So like I would finish mine and I didn't want to get off the bar because I was like, if I look at my hands and have time to like comprehend how bad they are, like I'm not going to get back up. So I would just be upside down, like at my hips, hanging on the bar while my friend would do her movement because I think it was like heavy thrusters. Never took long enough, and then she'd be done and back staring at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like. So that time, yes, because I was just, I don't know, mentally so done, and like I was being told, like, no, that one doesn't count, that one doesn't count. I guess at that time, like, I mean, nobody could come in and coach me. Like I was on the floor, and like that's not the judge's job. So I was definitely frustrated in that moment. And that was probably the only time that I really remember like the judge, like just, I don't know, that judgment that you said, like that, I think is probably the only time I've ever could relate to that. The rest of the time, like, I think I'm just more of a go with the flow person. So like, it doesn't really bother me, but I could see it bothering a lot of gymnasts that have had to deal with being judged so harshly throughout their entire life. And then jumping into a sport like this, I could see them like keeping that baggage.
It's interesting because like each person comes in with their own kind of like, mentality and mindset and their own, things that are going to hold them back mentally. But it just seems like because gymnasts are so harshly judged and they're so critical of movement quality that they can melt down, maybe not melt down, but like it affects them a little bit more when they take no reps inside of competitions.
I could see that. And then also like, I think one thing that gymnasts probably struggle with is not being too perfect. Like just trying over and over, like a snatch, like just doing it until you do so many that you're now doing them wrong because your brain is just done. That is probably something that a lot of gymnasts struggle with because like rep after rep, like it'll get better until it doesn't. And then you have to step away. But like that can be really frustrating. On the flip side, it can also be like what gets a gymnast to love it. Like that was actually what I fell in love with. I was like, oh, there's something else that I like need to be perfect at. Like that's literally what made me love weightlifting.
Yeah.
I know what's expected of me. I know what it's supposed to look like. It needs to be perfect for this to happen. And so I
Mhm.
actually think I kind of thrived on that.
So it was actually good that your level 1 instructors made you do a bunch of PVC reps actually.
I guess so.
And then broke your habits of being perfect on the barbell on the bar.
Yep.
Your level 1 was perfect for you.
Written just for me.
Yeah. That's sweet. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to get your like opinion and thought process on that, because that was something that I was, when you were talking about getting into competition, I was a little bit curious about, because I'd seen that before. And you know, I do want to like say this as well, as like a lot of people I think come into the sport and they see all these like, oh, I wish I had done gymnastics in my past or whatever. There are negative things that happen when you are a gymnast for your entire life. And like, you know, a lot of top athletes at the sport are former gymnasts. And they've also had their own kind of like battles and struggles to overcome. And like, Christa, you were kind of talking about your back, and it seems like that is a very common issue for gymnasts, is like their backs just get destroyed from gymnastics.
Yeah. I'm hypermobile. And everybody like growing up, I don't think people really knew what that was so much. Like it wasn't talked about. Obviously, social media didn't exist back then. So like you didn't hear all of these words. And my coaches didn't know how to coach me. Like I was just overly flexible and didn't have to control it in any way. So then you put a bunch of power behind that and you don't know how to control it. Like it's going to go to your joints. So I don't know. I think the sport is changing a lot for the good. There's been a lot of mindset changing that has happened. A lot of coaches are going more towards like weightlifting for their gymnasts to actually teach them control. So like, I think there's a lot of good things that are going to come out of the sport and hopefully trickle over into CrossFit in the future too, more so than it has in the past even. Like just due to a lot of negativity that was in the sport in the past, making it so hard on the body, like you're getting yelled at and told that you're not perfect over and over and over again. Like that can be a little degrading to some people.
100%.
Like I had a coach tell me, like she doesn't coach anymore, but she was like, I will never let my kids do this sport. I'm like, you're coaching it right now. And she was like, yeah, but it's so hard on you mentally. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be, like, that's all up to your coach. And the gymnastics gym I coach at now, like they're doing a phenomenal job of trying to just create this different culture and different mindset. And then Dave Tilley with see shift movement or shift perspective. I always forget his name.
Yeah, it's like, but it's spelled like with a Y, right? Maybe, or it might no.
I think shift is spelled normally, but I can't remember if it's shift movement. Either way, Dave Tilley, he is doing a really good job of teaching coaches how to change that culture, to change the mindset piece, to quit like bashing kids in the ground and their body. Hopefully in the next, like, I don't know, 10 years of athletes that you have coming through, you'll start to see some changes in them. Obviously it's up to the gym that they're at, right? But hopefully there'll be some good positive changes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You turned me on to him I think early 2020. And then I think we are supposed to go out to a camp in Alabama, and then that got shut down. So but yeah, any I guess any closing thoughts here? Anything you wanted to touch on, or
I can't think of anything that we missed. Unless, I guess with the cartel, the only other thing we didn't really touch on was just where the gymnastics is being put. So obviously we talked about a class format, and the programming you write is for competitors, and that can't all fit into class. So we're taking some of your extra work 3 days a week and programming that in, and then gymnastics 3 days a week. So if somebody comes to a class at a gym that's following the cartel, they can stick around after class, or open gym, or whatever their gym allows for them to have actual programming to follow instead of just trying to cram some stuff in on their own.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And where social media wise, how do people find you? What is the name? Oh man, this is way too late in the podcast to be doing this. What is the name of your gym?
We are Align Athletics and CrossFit Thrive. but our Instagram handle is Align Athletics _ CFT. Just because I'm not going to have two different Instagram accounts for one gym. So everything's combined under one. And then our YouTube, where we're trying to pull videos from for the cartel, for the gymnastics stuff, is also Align Athletics.
Perfect. Yeah. And how do people find your personal Instagram?
Oh, shoot. I don't even know my handle. I am Christa Alexandra _
Sweet, sweet. And then we've been saying cartel, and every program that we write out, we try and have some meaning behind it. So the method is kind of like, we developed our individual programming. This is the method to kind of get you into that. Blacklisted Light is kind of like a lighter version of our programming. We chose the cartel because definition of cartel is a combination of independent business organization, or group of parties, factions, and nations united in a common cause. So Chris and I are both kind of like different organizations, but we both see coaching very, very similar. So Christa, thanks for coming on. This is an awesome podcast. I think you got a lot of knowledge to hand out to people. So hopefully you can start to kind of grow your following here. But yeah, thank you again for coming on.
I hope I live up to that, but thanks for having me.
For sure. If you guys are still listening, please give us a follow on Instagram, blacklisted.hq. Please give Christa a follow as well. You guys are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And we will catch you guys next time.